was having problems sleeping at night. I always slept on my stomach, and I couldn't sleep on my stomach for some reason. It hurt. Something wasn't right, so I felt it. It felt like there was a rock in there. It's just a very hard mass. So I thought, what? You pregnant?
No way.
I was not getting the period still, so I took 2 pregnancy tests, and they both resulted negative. And I, as a scientist, just depended on those results and said, it's negative. It's right there. And then I was like, oh my gosh, what could this be in my stomach? I think naturally my first thoughts were something along the lines of cancer. So I kind of assumed it must be a tumor. So I called up the doctor. He says, so, I'm gonna set you up for an ultrasound and, we'll see what that shows.
2 weeks later, Jennifer went in for an ultrasound.
She went in and I sat outside and I was nervous. I really thought that it was cancerous. But I kind of prayed that it isn't. She was my baby. I didn't want her to think anything bad that would happen to her.
Got the results of your ultrasound.
The doctor says, well...
Jennifer, you're pregnant.
What? And I kind of looked at him and said, huh?
The doctor suspected she could be in her 3rd trimester.
I had no clue what he was really saying. No clue what last trimester meant.
Okay.
I felt relief, I think, at first, because it was not cancer or a tumor. But then I felt the shock and the awe that I was pregnant and that I had not known and that I had not had the care. And she came out of the doctor's office and she's crying and crying and crying.
I'm pregnant.
These feelings, she's all by herself. She's a single mom. I remember calling Bobby and telling him, hey, we need to talk.
Jennifer?
She's crying. And I said, Jen, what's wrong? Did somebody die? Somebody in an accident?
I'm pregnant.
Wow.
And he really didn't know what to say on the phone. He was really surprised.
Not knowing if she could count on Bobby, Jennifer starts to prepare herself to go it alone.
That afternoon, I went home and I was doing research online. I was getting books, I was getting magazines, whatever kind of information I could get. I was calling my girlfriends who had, already had pregnancies and getting whatever materials I could get my hands on to read. That scientist in me was just like, I need to read what's going on because I had no clue.
Just 2 days after finding out she was pregnant, Jennifer woke up to an alarming sight.
I woke up with light bleeding. I was very concerned because I knew that this wasn't normal. So I called up the doctor, and they said, well, come down to the emergency room.
Jennifer's mum rushed her to the local hospital.
I was very scared because I thought that she was going to lose the baby. They immediately checked my vital signs.
Blood pressure was 180/90.
And my blood pressure was very, very high.
Possible preeclampsia?
They said severe preeclampsia.
Preeclampsia is a condition found in some pregnant women. It can cause elevated blood pressures. The elevated blood pressures can cause strokes in the mother, and it can also lead to problems with the placenta and death of the baby.
They were literally measuring bones of the baby to try to get an idea of how far along I was. They were literally measuring bones of the baby to try to get an idea of how far along I was because they still had no clue.
The doctor's best guess was the baby wasn't developed enough to be born healthy.
At this point, the baby was turned, so they really couldn't get any measurements as to how big the baby was or how far along I was.
I feel like you should just have some bed rest.
They wanted us to try to keep the baby in for weeks if we could, because we didn't know the size and state of his or her lungs.
So we're just gonna take you to a room? Let you get some rest, okay?
I think my water just broke.
I kind of felt like this must not be good because That's the baby's protection. I was told that the baby was in distress, the baby's heartbeat was racing, and they said, well, you're gonna be delivering tonight.
All right, prep L&D 1. We have to get her in delivery right away.
Oh, wait, I thought you said I had to wait a few more weeks.
We don't have a choice. This baby's coming tonight.
It was just such a fear as to what was gonna happen when I had the baby. I didn't know how big it was gonna be. I didn't know if it was gonna be healthy.
Fearing the worst, Jennifer reached out to her ex-boyfriend, the baby's father.
Bobby, it's Jennifer.
Jennifer said that I needed to come to the hospital. My heart was pounding, so I didn't know what to expect. The doctor had pulled me aside and he's like, you probably have a 80% chance the baby will have birth defects.
When Bobby was crying, I was like, wow.
80% chance the baby will have birth defects.
When Bobby was crying, I was like, wow, this is scary. This is serious, this is scary.
Despite the risks, doctors had no choice but to deliver the baby.
All of a sudden, I felt an urge to push, and I pushed, and the baby's head was there.
One, push. Come on, give me a big one, a big push. Here we go.
Within 20 minutes, Jennifer delivered an incredibly tiny 4-pound, 13-ounce girl.
And they literally cut her umbilical cord, and they took her right away. That was it, she was gone.
Is she okay?
I need you to push. We gotta get the push.
It was very traumatic because they didn't even give you like one little view. She was out and gone.
Is she gonna be okay?
We'll know real soon, all right?
We still didn't know if the baby was normal. I think I was scared, very scared to know what was going on. I didn't know what I was gonna hear.
I couldn't hear the baby crying. I'm thinking the worst.
Almost done.
I just stood there, waiting, looking, praying. It was a long 20 minutes. A long 20 minutes.
They came in the room with my daughter.
I remember the doctors and nurses telling us that baby was a miracle baby.
She was perfectly healthy. My baby, who we didn't know about, was okay. It was such a relief.
It was like I could breathe.
And